Hello, welcome to Todd Miller TV. In the office today on a Saturday, meeting with an investor client here in about 15 minutes. I got asked a question and it sort of, it leads to a misconception. I wanted to answer it. The question is, why is there an MLS? Why isn't all this data just free for everybody? Why do we need you guys? Where did this come from? And with the birth of the internet, the search and quest for free data, basically everybody believes all data is free, that they should have full use and exercise of it, and that the MLSs are just a monopoly, etc. So I want to explain how we got there, because when I explain it, you'll go, oh, I get it now. Okay, so way back in the day, before technology and before all of this, real estate companies would, when they took, and in many countries it's like this, when they took a listing, it was their company's listing, period. Meaning they would go to a person and say, we will sell your house, you will pay us a commission. And the commission rate was 5 or 6%. That was kind of what was sort of the going rate. And only agents in that office could sell that house. So if people called off the sign, an agent from the office would show the house. There was no other way to find it. You couldn't go to another agent and say, show me all the houses that are available. They would bring you in their office and only show you their houses. The other way to do it was just to sell it yourself, right? So what happened was some real estate agents, brokerages started saying, hey, if we cooperated with each other, if we allowed each other to sell each other's listings, then what we would do is we would open up the field for everybody so that we could sell each other's listings. And a lot of brokers didn't want to participate in this. They didn't want to do this. And this was when there were realtors. So they didn't want to do this. So they said, hey, we don't want to participate in this system. We're just going to sell our own listings. They said, fine, no problem. And a bunch of realtors got together and said, hey, let's just do this, and let's just go to each other's offices, and what we'll do is we'll create a listing book every week. In the listing book, what will happen is we'll go to your office, we'll take all your listings, make copies of them, and we'll give you copies of all our listings, so when people come in your office, you can look through all the listings through this book. Well, you can imagine in some markets that have a lot of houses, these books can be pretty substantial. Well, as soon as technology came along, people said, let's just share it all electronically. So what was born was an electronic MLS. An electronic MLS is nothing more than the professional database which real estate agents have invented, own, and utilize as a professional service between other real estate agents. That's strictly between other agents. Now, you can imagine that we've also found that this is a great way to collect clients, because, people could go on the internet or go on a website and say, oh, I'll look at these listings, and then they end up calling us. So we ended up giving out portions of the data, not all of it. We gave out some of it, and I said, well, let's just give out as much as we can to all over the place and let them sort of look, but they're still going to have to use us to buy because we have these exclusive agreements in place. So the question that I get all the time from people is, well, Google's going to just take over and do all this. Well, here's the problem. The MLSs, if you look at all of them, it takes about 1.6 million realtors with all their data and all their time and effort, meaning you have to go to a house, you have to take measurements of the rooms, you have to write down all the features of the house, what kind of flooring, what kind of countertops the kitchens have, and all the data about the house, and then the size of the pool, everything, and then put that in the MLS so that you can market the house and let people know what they're looking at. Also, you have to do some research. You have to go find out about the HOAs, how much their fees are, etc., and disclose all that. Well, the truth is that Google doesn't have enough people. If it's taking 1.6 million real estate agents, that's all they do, to gather this data and maintain it. That's the important part, is maintain it and make sure that it's accurate. So the common thing is, we'll just let the homeowners do it. Google or some company will build a database, and people have tried this, and then Fizbo.com and others, and the owners will just put their own information in. Well, the problem is this. If you're an owner and your house tax record says it's 2,000 or it's 1,910 square feet, 3-bedroom house, but you've got this den, and you've had your relative living in it, there's a bed in there, so you can put 4 bedrooms. And then you go, well, it's really 2,000 square feet because I have a ping pong table in the garage. So I'm going to count that as square feet, and that garage is 350 square feet. So now I'm going to say, it's a 2,300 square foot house. So, there's no, how can you hold them accountable? And the data would be inaccurate, meaning owners would puff, like incredibly misrepresent their houses, and they can't be held accountable. They don't have a real estate license. It's not like you can come after them for that. But with realtors and real estate licensees, it's completely different. You can't misrepresent. You have to create a true picture. It has to be accurate. So the accuracy is so critical. If you don't have professionals doing it, if you had just the people doing it, it would be a mess. Plus, you would never be able to use it as a reliable database for comparable properties. Because, let's say that house ended up selling. The person showed up and said, oh yeah, it's not really 2,300 square feet. I get it. It's this, but, I'll pay you $110,000 for the house. And then they buy it. Well, the next person that comes along looks in the old thing and goes, well, maybe the owner never puts it in, so you don't even know if it's sold. But let's say they do. I sold my house for $110,000. Well, then the guy down the street who really does have a 2,300 square foot house goes, gosh, I thought my house was bigger than his, and his is the same square footage, and I'm only going to get $110,000 for my house. Gosh. So you can see how that would cause a problem. You wouldn't want to be the guy down the street. Also, you wouldn't want to be the guy down the street saying, no, my house was bigger, I want $125,000. And having the buyer go, nuh-uh, the house down the street's the same size according to this thing, and it says it sold for this, because that's what we get now. Having accurate data, having it all be right and run by professionals, and look, until somebody comes with a better way to do it, that's the way we're going to do it. And when someone comes up with an easier, better, more accurate way, realtors, I'm sure, will be all on board with moving and doing that. We just want to, do the same thing everybody else does. Have a life, do a job, make some money, help some people, and have it all make sense and be accurate, be hassle-free. So anyway, that's sort of a tangent, but that's where MLSs came from. That's why they're the way they are, and I hope that educated you, gave you some more information. It's not a monopoly, it's not a cabal, it's not a cartel, it's not anything like that. It's just a bunch of independent people all using a common database to share information. Anyway, that is my update, and hope to see you on another video. Thanks.